Hi, my name is Nellywade, and welcome to me talking about Twilight. Quite honestly, this is inspired by me having sort of a breakthrough with my reconnecting with my inner child and deciding to start consuming media I enjoyed at the time. So I reread the entirety of the Twilight series at the beginning of this year, finished at the beginning of March, and I have so much to say. So I thought I would share some of my thoughts with you all. Today I'm just going to talk about Twilight because I think it's a good place to start, and we'll see how this goes. If you like it, I will probably upload the other videos, and if this does okay, then I will keep all of my notes to myself. I'm going to preface this by saying I'm going to be talking about Twilight, and I'm also going to be talking about life and death. It is a 10th anniversary reimagining of the Twilight book, but quite honestly, almost page for page, they are the same. So I will be dispersing commentary about life and death in here if you get confused. I'll make sure to try and make it as smooth as possible. I'm gonna try and keep this pretty chronological, but sometimes I might run off on a little bit of a tangent. If you have seen or read the books, seen the movies, you're more than welcome to stay. If you've never experienced these books or this media before, no worries. I'll try and take you along for the ride as much as I can, but again, I'll be getting a little carried away. Yeah, so basically, here I am, a queer black person talking about these very kind of racist books. Feel free to watch this entire video if you like my mannerisms or whatever like that, but you're also more than welcome to just leave me on and do whatever you want, because this is honestly going to function as both a watch video and more as a podcast. So feel free to do what you do while you watch this or listen to me. We're just going to jump right into it. Bella, our main character, is in Phoenix right now, packing up the car. She is on her way to the airport. Where is she going? Forks, Washington. We, as the readers, don't know anything about Forks, Washington, but Miss Bells is ripping this place to shreds. I mean, no regard for anyone's feelings. She is ripping this place to shreds, and her dad lives there because she's going to live with her dad because her mom got a cool new husband who is in minor league baseball, and he travels. And so Bella wants her mom to travel with him so she can be happy. Essentially, she is sad that her mom is being a mom and is leaving so her dad can be a dad and her mom can run the world. It makes sense later on, but this context is good for now. It makes sense later on why Bella is so concerned with making sure her mom is happy. It's mostly just because Bella's mom was so young when she had her. Bella had to kind of step up and become the mom figure. Not by almost out of necessity, because her mom is such a free spirit. So yeah, but she is just ripping into Forks, Washington. And we, as a reader, unless you actually live in the Pacific Northwest, you're getting your first experience of Forks from her, and she's just ripping to shreds, talking about how cold and rainy and depressing it is there. Just like going in about how like cold, dark, damp, and rainy it is there. Which, you know, is fine. You can talk about that, but like, we have started out the book right away with like her just ripping into this place that we haven't even been yet. And it kind of sets up the tone of the rest of the book about how Bella has such a chip on her shoulder. Which, quite honestly, going into a little bit of my feelings about life and death, it does make life and death a little bit more of, I wouldn't say an enjoyable read, because Twilight is probably my least favorite book of the entire saga, but, because instead of giving Beau, which is Bella's counterpart, this chip on his shoulder and just making him really just like emo and depressed, she just gives him a complete and utter disregard for his own humanity and well-being, which honestly Bella has, but like it's buried underneath just this deep and utter like, ugh, my life, you know. Like that's the vibe she gives off. It's just like, ugh, my life. Like, your life is okay. Like, it's fine. Yeah, so anyway, her mom's like, you don't have to go if you don't want to, but Bella's like, no, I have to go because I want you to have fun, basically. Which is not what she said. She's like, I want to go spend time with my dad. I want to finish high school with my dad. I don't remember exactly what she said. But she was basically like making an excuse, and like, we all know you don't want to go. And this was the first time that a parent should have parented and said, actually, Bella, you should stay. Her mom should have been like, actually, Bella, you should stay. I'll be fine. You know? That should have been the first time we had a parent actually parent. But I digress. We're gonna move on. So, plane ride. We're now in Forks. Bella is picked up by Dad. Dad's name is Charlie, and we are now in Forks with Charlie. Bella is now just continually going in about how it's cold and rainy, and then proceeds to absolutely rip to shreds the fact that Charlie is the chief of police and therefore drives around in a police cruiser. A cab. It's a cab. It's a cab for Charlie too. But Bella's complete and utter just visceral reaction of being so angry about riding in the police cruiser honestly makes sense, but like, babes, what other options do you have? And he's right there. And it's kind of just like this weird thing where she's like, yeah, nobody, I don't even call him dad unless it's to his face. So like, she doesn't even call him dad. And like, and I just get this vibe right away that like, she doesn't like her dad that much. If that's intentional or not, I don't know, but I just get this vibe that like, she does not like Charlie that much. Which is like, Charlie hasn't done anything wrong at this point. Charlie has literally just been the chief of police. That's like really the most transgression we have from him. Like, we're literally only 20 pages in and we're already getting this long exposition about how she doesn't like the police cruiser. Okay, like, she picks literally everything apart, and it's really weird because it's like, what other choices do you have, babe? Let's put things into perspective. So anyway, they're having this really awkward car ride, and like, they're not really talking, and she just like, you look great, Dad. He's like, you look great. And she's like, did you cut your hair? And she's like, it's longer since the last time you saw me. Just very plain, boring conversation. And then he's like, I got you a car. And, you know, he's like super excited. Like, I got you a car. Not in like the gay way. Just like, I got you a car. Like a man. And he's like, I got you a car. It's super cute. Da-da-da. And she's like, is it old? You probably got it for free. But that's not exactly what she said. But she's probably like, how old is it? How old is it? Where did you get it? How much did you pay for it? And like, in the little exposition of what she's thinking, she's like, wow, must be older than me, must be older than him even, and wow, he must have got it for free. Like, this action of her father taking the time to actually get her a car so she can drive around is somehow a horrible thing for him to do, even though she literally just spent an entire page talking about how much she would hate driving around in the police cruiser. So that also didn't make sense to me. So anyway, they pull up to Charlie's house, and she sees this, I think it's 1956 Chevy truck. Stephanie Myers puts a lot of detail in her books, sometimes detail that we don't even need. Like, she could have just easily said it was like a truck from the 1950s or 60s. Like, she gave us very specific details, and she does that throughout the entirety of all of the books, which I don't hate, but I find it to be just like, okay, I don't need this detail. So anyway, she sees the truck and ends up loving it. Like, we went through this whole thing about her just ripping it to shreds, and she ends up just absolutely being head over heels in love with it. Wow. So anyway, she goes upstairs, begins to unpack her things and wind down and freshen up and stuff. And we get another exposition of her complaining, this time about the scenery of the house, saying that the cabinets are the same, the paint in her room is the same, and she has to share a bathroom with Charlie. And then she goes on for like a little bit talking about how she feels uncomfortable that Charlie hasn't got over her mom. And I'm like, Charlie married her when he was like 19, and he's a police chief that comes home and watches March Madness, who can't even cook for himself. You really think he's concerned with the fact that he has yellow cabinets from like almost 20 years ago? Your head is in the wrong place. You need to be focused on getting your ass unpacked and going to school. You are focused on all the wrong things. So anyway, she's now unpacking and all this stuff, and I think she goes down to the kitchen and she notices that this man has absolutely no food. Like, no food. Absolutely none. So she makes a point to go grocery shopping, and tries to make something with what's there. like throughout the book, and throughout the books in general, there's always a point that Charlie does not cook for himself, and Bella is chefing down. Like, and that is a detail that I did not like, that the movies completely dropped. Like, they decided to make this thing where they go out to a diner every day, but like, they are not of money, so like, them going out to a diner even every Thursday, I don't know. But like, Bella was chefing down in the books. Like, there were many points where we got very specific details of her cooking dinner. She was chefing down, and she wasn't a bad cook either. Like, I feel like the movies tried to make it seem like she was just like useless overall, which was not the case. Bella had charms about her, and chefing down was one of them. So anyway, we're gonna fast forward now to her going to school for the first time. And, you know, she pulls up in her old truck, and she's like, oh my god, this truck is so loud, it drowns out my thoughts. Originally, she was like, oh my god, I'm kind of embarrassed, like, my car is so loud. But she ends up not really caring when she gets to the actual school, and she sees that everybody else's cars are not new either. But before we get there, she goes to, like, the front entrance that, like, nobody really parks at, and, like, gets her schedule and stuff, and, like, all that jazz. Then, you know, she's meeting people along the way. She meets some of her friends whose names have completely escaped me. I know she meets Mike Newton at this time. Honestly, all of Bella's human friends are actual horrible people. The only one who isn't is Angela. Shout out to Angela. Shout out to Angela, she's a real one. But the rest of them were literally horrible people, and also horrible friends to Bella. And, like, we don't get any of that in this book, so I'm not going to get into it, but they are horrible friends to her. Just awful. And like and then she goes to gym and we get this really awkward banter, which if you know iconic scenes from Twilight, it's like, oh, and then she's like, oh, I'm part albino, and they're just like, it's like, you're from Arizona, but you look so pale, and she's like, yeah, I'm so pale, they kicked me out. Just, she tries. And anyways, these people are like, okay, we're gonna be your friends, and they all sit together at lunch, and you know, she's like just chatting, and then the Cullens walk in, and it's like, you know, whatever. The Cullens walk in, and she's originally just like, okay, cool. And then she sees Edward. And she's just gooped and gagged by how attractive this, like, doesn't, you know, she's just like stunned at how beautiful this entire family is. And so like she was talking about how like they're just like model-esque, and they're like don't look anything like the people that were from Phoenix. I don't know if she actually said that, but like that was the vibe she was giving off, because like, you know, if you see beautiful people. But then she's like enamored by Edward, and it's just like, wow, he's beautiful, he's gorgeous. And then they go to science, and he smells her from across the room, and he gives her that damn bitch, you stink look. And she's like, I don't stink. And then they spend the entire class period like having this really awkward moment. He's staring at her like he wants to rip her to shreds, like literally kill her because she smells bad. Spoiler alert, it's not because she smells bad, it's because she smells too damn good. It's because she smells too damn good. And he spends the entire class period staring at her like he wants to kill her. And she is just like, yo, who is he? Who is he? And she's just like freaked out and like trying to distract herself. And like Bella is genuinely afraid at this point. Like there is no like, ooh, but, ooh, like there's not really that kind of vibe yet. That vibe comes a little later, but like right now she's genuinely terrified because he's looking at her like death is imminent. Like she, like, yeah, she was obviously very lured in by his general presence, but she also knows that he's very capable of just snapping her neck right now. Like that's just the look that he was giving her. And then, you know, they're off again to do their own things, and she spends the rest of her day just thinking about this interaction. And it's just like bad all around. And so when she goes back to the office to turn in her like little sign-in sheet, because she's a new student, right? And so she has to, you know, do her little new student stuff. Ooh, so she goes back to the office to like hand over her little sheet, and guess who's there? Edward. But this time he's trying to switch out of science, out of her biology class. She smelled that bad. And originally he had no idea she was there, you know, and then all of a sudden he turns around and he looks at her, you know, the same look, and she's genuinely frightened yet again. She's genuinely frightened yet again, and then he's like, oh, I see it's impossible, so bye. He just storms out, you know, typical Edward BS. Typical Edward BS. And she's just like, that was a lot. Here you go, Miss Thing. I'ma go. You know, I'm going home. You know, she's going home, back to that home with Charlie, you know, to do what she do. Because what does she do? Cook. Cook down. And what does she also do? Email her mother. Not call her mother. Email her mother. And she sends it. And her mother sends her these multiple email after email being like, you haven't called me. You haven't emailed me back. I'm so worried about you. If you don't email me back in the next 5 hours, I'm going to call, blah, blah, blah. You know, she's like, oh my God, no, don't call. Like, she very much does not want to talk to her mom. and like lie and like kind of lies, and it's just like, yeah, things are fine, I'm making friends, blah blah blah. And it's just like, babes, we know the truth. We know the truth. We know the truth. Anyway, so all of a sudden now, she's going to school. I'm skipping around a little bit. But she goes back to school. Edward's missing. Like, Edward is gone. Completely and MIA. Gone, you know. His family still comes there. His family still comes in the silver Volvo. The silver Volvo, she's an icon. She's probably one of the best parts of this book. The silver Volvo. So, yeah. And he doesn't come to school for a while. And she's really worried. And she's like, oh my goodness, where is he? And like, did he leave because of me? And she's like really like tore up, shook to her core because he's nowhere to be found. And this goes on for like at least a couple of weeks. You know, he's gone a minute, right? And then one day, out of nowhere, he shows back up and he's suddenly nice. And like, sorry I was so rude before. My name's Edward. It's like, babes, where have you been? Like, let's be real here. And like, this is really the beginning where like, apparently she's attracted to him and like the lure is there. Because like, she can't stop thinking about him. Like, at this point, it's an obsession. And it really is an obsession. Like, really, what should have happened at some point, an adult should have stepped in and said, this is a toxic situation and we need to get both of you out before the end, before what happened at the end. But yeah, and then he's all super nice and she's like, you're nice to me now? Whatever. I'm not feeling this at all. And so anyway, they move on, you know, doing what they do. And then he's nice to her again. And then he's gone again. You know, nice again. Hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. So annoying. So I'm going to skip ahead to the beach scene. So during all of this, Bella has human friends, and these human friends go like surfing and like whale spotting and just hanging out on the La Push Beach. And La Push Beach is the beach on the native reservation in Forks, Washington, of the Quillette tribe. So they all go, you know, during the moment when Edward is really nice and sweet. They talk about going out to La Push Beach and like at this point, but Edward is on speaking terms with her and he's just like, rules be damned kind of thing. Rules be damned, I'm gonna speak to you anyway because I can't seem to stay away from you, which is like another really weird thing to say to someone. I just want to reiterate that I really don't think that if anyone was actually paying attention to these two people, like an adult should have stepped in. Like, I don't care if Edward is ancient. Okay, we'll get there. So, anyway, in this moment where they're like nice to each other again, she kind of like invites Edward out to La Push Beach and he's like, I wish I could go, but I can't. And she's like, okay, whatever. And then her friends sort of like tease her that he didn't come when they actually go to the beach, which is like really awful of y'all. Anyway, so they're at the beach and who does Miss Belliana run into? Jacob Black, who is one of her childhood friends. And, you know, they're hanging out with like the native kids who are on the beach because it's their beach too. And, you know, they're teasing Bella that the fact that Edward didn't come, and one of I think it was Sam. Sam said to everyone, "The Cullens don't come here," and he said it in a very stern tone. And Bella had already been like, something that's different about the Cullens. Why did he say it like that? So she goes off and tries to, and flirts with Jacob. This is truly where she fucked up. Then we'll figure out why that happens in New Moon. But anyway, she then has her little flirty moment with Jacob to sort of pine information out about why Sam would say something like that. And basically, Jacob breaks the treaty and tells her about how, like, the Cullens are the cold ones and how they're blood-sucking vampires, essentially. And like, he's like, oh, it's only a legend, and isn't it so boring? And, like, isn't it so stupid? Like, because the kids, most of the native teens at this point on the reservation do not believe in almost any of their folklore. They just think that it's stories. Sam at this point is the only one who, like, actually truly believes their folklore, but most of the teens are just like, it's just folklore, nobody really cares. Right, yeah, so Jacob essentially breaks the treaty to tell Bella this information because she's cute and she flirted with him. And so it sends Bella on, like, this spiral, which, by the way, you know, she's been having dreams about Edward for a while now, and, like, she has this really, like, intense dream that night where Jacob is trying to everybody's trying to pull her into the forest, and you've got Edward on the beach, and he's, like, beautiful and glistening and gleaming, you know, like, not quite like what we find out later, but, like, it's pretty obvious that, like, he's one of them. And so she goes on a manhunt to, like, find information and, like, go search down, but nothing is making sense to her. So she just decides to close that chapter. So it's now, like, junior prom time, or prom time in general. And so her friends are like, let's go shopping. And so they go shopping in Port Angels. And, you know, they're shopping. And Bella's like, actually, I want to go off on my own. So she goes off, I think, to find a bookstore, because Bella is an avid reader and she reads a lot. There's even a scene where she just falls asleep on her front lawn reading. Like, Bella is an avid reader and she reads, like, Wuthering Heights and stuff like that. Like, and Jane Eyre, she reads, like, classic literature. That's, like, a really big point of her character throughout all the books, is that she reads classic literature. So anyway, she's going to find a bookstore, and she ends up getting turned around and is, like, put into this really awkward situation in Port Angels where she's almost assaulted. Yeah, I'm not going to go into the full details of that because it's honestly quite upsetting to read. I'm going to gloss over it a little bit. But she's pretty much almost like sexually assaulted, and, like, Edward comes out of nowhere and saves her. And, like, in this big act, chiming in with my life and death commentary. What they did different, and what Stephenie Meyers did different in this scene, is, so she established that these gangsters have beef with him since he got off the plane, because he was the chief of police's son who bumped into him while he was at the airport, which is, like, very normal thing to happen. And so he's almost killed because of a vendetta. What she did differently to sort of substitute, and, like, that very violent scene. I really don't think we needed that violent of a scene to encapsulate that Edward cares about her and Edward would do anything to protect her. Like, I really don't think we needed a scene that was quite as viscerally violent as that one was. It's one of my least favorite scenes in the entire series, and it still makes me feel really icky thinking about it. So after all of that, Edward saves her, and he's like, convince me not to go back there and rip their heads off. And she's like, you'll die if you do that. Don't do that. And he's like, fine. He goes to a restaurant that her friends were at. I don't know how he figured out. Well, we do know how he figured that out, but that's another thing. So he goes to the restaurant that apparently they were supposed to eat at, and her friends were like, oh my god, I'm so worried about you. What happened? And she's like, I got twisted and turned around, but I'm fine now. Completely making light of what just happened to her. And she's just like, yeah. And they're like, oh, well, we ate without you. She's like, oh, that's okay. And then Edward is like, actually, I'm going to take you to dinner. Right then and there, I'm going to take you to dinner. And she's like, no, you won't. And they're like, actually, go to dinner. Her friends are like, go to dinner. It's Edward fucking Cullen. Go to dinner. So anyway, they go to dinner. Her friends leave. You know, they're like, oh my god, Edward? Bella? Her friends are super jealous. Like, Jessica, her friend Jessica, that was with her, like the main head bitch of this friend group almost, uber jealous that Edward Cullen would want Bella Swan over Jessica, you know, very, very jealous. But they leave, and so Edward and Bella have dinner together, and they like have a conversation, and she basically pieces together that like he can read minds, because he hinted at it earlier, because he would sit with her at lunch and they would, you know, gab, and so he hinted that he could earlier, but it is what it is. So she's like, can you read minds? And he's kind of like, yeah, lol. And she's like, why are you so charming? Why are you so cold? What's going on? So anyway, they have dinner, and Bella's like wolfing down food. She's hungry and probably traumatized, even though she'll never admit it. And she's cold, so obviously he gives her jacket. Another detail, and that Stephanie Myers really didn't need to put in here, but she did. The Cullens almost exclusively wear pastel colors, like whites. Like, mostly they wear, like, cream and white. Like, they don't wear a lot of dark colors. Like, that was something that she made very clear. Don't know why, but, like, they wear a lot of, like, creams and whites, and, like, just pastels. Like, not necessarily bright colors, but, like, soft, muted colors. Don't know why. Do not know why. But that is, because, like, she's like, oh, Edward gave me his white leather jacket. Why do we need to get so specific about what the color of the jacket is? Anyway, so, you know, now they're in the car going home. Yes, back to, you guessed it, Charlie's. And Edward is zooming down the freeway. Like, zooming. Like, sorry, at dinner, he's like, tell me what your speculations are about me. And she's like, no, I'm too embarrassed. We'll do it in the car. And now we're in the car. And then basically she's like, are you a vampire? And he's just like, is that what your guess was? And she's like, no. Honestly, I went to La Push and Jacob told me the story. And so I kind of put it together. Because she had been making guesses, like, through their little time chit-chatting at lunch. She had been making her guesses then, but she finally made the right guess this time. So now that everything is out in the clear, Edward is like, okay, you're gonna run for the hills. Like, Edward has this, oh my god, when are you gonna run for the hills kind of energy. And Bella's like, I really don't care. You're just Edward to me. Which is, like, another huge red flag, in my opinion. But she's like, I don't really care. Yeah, I don't care. You're just Edward. No, babes. That man can kill you. And he's old as shit. So anyway, now they spend, like, the next couple of days, like, doing this weird back and forth where, like, she asks him a ton of questions about, like, his time being a vampire, being so old, why he's a vampire, why he lives in Forks, what he eats, but you know, or in the car, he's kind of like, we drink blood. She's like, okay. Like, Bella does not care. I'm sorry. Bella has no care in the world that Edward is a vampire. She just thinks he's hot. Yeah, that's it. So they have, like, this little back and forth of, like, asking each other questions and stuff, and, like, that's where we reveal that Bella is like very protective of her mother and is almost stepped up to be the mother figure in the relationship. We find out about all the books she likes to read and all this kind of stuff. Just like this really like random Q&A that he decided to have because he wanted to know every single breathing, living detail about her. Honestly, I think it was just Stephanie Meyer's way of getting us to learn more about the characters without actually putting any effort into it. Yeah. So, anyway, they have like this whole little back and forth. And then they decide to like go out on this like this hike date kind of thing. The meadow scene. They decide to go to this meadow, and like it's really pivotal moment because it's kind of like where their relationship is solidified. But before we get there, I don't remember where this happened, but there is a really weird, awkward scene where I think it's like the next day after that confession or something, where Edward is like, yeah, I've been watching you sleep for months. Like, he visits her room, you know, and he's like, oh yeah, I've been watching you sleep for months. It comforts me. I've been breaking into your house for months to watch you sleep. Hello. And Bella's just like, oh wow, you watch me sleep? What do I say? No. This man has been committing breaking and entering into your home for months, and your response is, do I talk in my sleep? No, I can't get into this. What? It should also be noted that like Edward cannot read Bella's mind. He can read everyone's mind but hers. So like he can't. So like he has a huge inferiority complex about like what she's actually thinking about. But we don't really find that out until Midnight Sun. But it's kind of hinted at in this book. And like Bella's, honestly, Edward wasn't really missing anything. Her thoughts were pretty empty until New Moon. Like no thoughts, head empty. But yeah, like they have this banter, and she's just like fine with the fact that he watches her sleep. Like she thinks it's romantic. And like honestly, the same night that she had a dream about Edward Cullen is probably the first night he broke into her house, and she'd been dreaming about him ever since. That is so disturbing. And then he had the audacity to lay in bed with her, and then for them to just be cuddly kissy. Well, not kissing, but like cuddling, like being all cute and pretending like this is normal. It's not normal. That man breaks into your house every night and watches you sleep to comfort himself. If you don't file a restraining order against that man, right the fuck now, right now, he watches you sleep. And not even watches you sleep. He breaks into your house to watch you sleep every night. Cut it out. So anyway, now they have this little ritual where he visits her every night. And that does not stop until he leaves. New Moon. Disturbing. Very disturbing information. So yeah, and now we are getting into like the whoo of this book. Like it went whoo real fast. So we're at the meadow scene. Yeah, I'm just gonna skip right to the meadow scene because honestly it's important. It's very important for me to get my thoughts out about the meadow scene. The meadow scene is honestly extremely uncomfortable, in my opinion. It's the pivotal moment of their relationship, but I honestly feel like it's the moment, I mean, that's the point. Like, Edward was expecting her to, like, run away in that moment. But honestly, I feel like Bella should have, because, like, you know, they were having such a wonderful conversation. He was just, like, explaining things to her, like, listen, this is what it is. And she's just like, I don't really care. And then, like, she goes, I think she tries to kiss him. Like, she's very overeager, typical teenage girl kind of thing. And he loses it almost. And he's like, I could have killed you right then. do, and then goes into like this long soliloquy about how he could kill her and all this other stuff. And basically talking about all his like superhuman abilities because he's a vampire, and like Bella is just like, I don't really care. I don't really care, okay, babes? You thought you could kill me. You didn't kill me, so what's good? You can't. And I'm like, Bella, I need you to have regard for yourself. I need you to have self-respect. I need you to love and respect yourself. This man does not care about you in the way that you think he does. You need to get out of there. That man is obsessed with you in a way that is so unbelievably unhealthy. Because this man would have killed you anyway. I need you to get out of there. I need you to get out of there now. Get out of there fast. Fast. But, you know, she stays, you know, against literally everyone's better judgment. And then, you know, they actually have like a formal kiss after they run through the forest. Or they have a formal kiss there. I don't remember where their first formal kiss was. But I remember they ran through the forest to get there, had the metal scene, and then they ran through the forest to get back to Bella's truck because she made a note to drive the truck. And then they kiss, and like Bella's just like, yo, and like every time they try to kiss, she faints. It's and then she gets overeager, and he's just like, no, we're not doing this. And honestly, this whole thing of like, oh, he's so dazzling. And I'm like, no, babes, he's a creep, and you need to get out of there. You need to get out of there. So anyway, literally, they just had the metal scene where they have established that they can handle this, and then the next thing we know, they are off to meet the parents. We are meeting parents already. So, you know, she meets Carlisle and Esme. Lovely. Love both of them. And she's already met everyone else in the Cullen clan, but like now I guess has like formally met them. You know, Rosalie's not feeling her at all. Whatever. Esme is head over heels, and Alice can see the future, so they're already besties in her mind. And then Jasper's Jasper. That's all I can say. You know, he has his little mood control thing, so he keeps the situation pretty calm. And Emmett is Emmett, and that's really all you can say about Emmett. That's all you can say. So anyway, Edward plays a beautiful little number on the piano. Right, this is completely cut from the movie. So he plays a little beautiful number on the piano. He plays Esme's song, and then he writes Bella. I think he writes Bella a lullaby or something like that. I think it's called Bella's Lullaby in the movie, in like the movie soundtrack. But anyway, he writes her whole like piano piece, and he plays it, and he's like, and like they make a big deal that the end is somber, and Bella's like, it's beautiful, and then he's like, okay, I'll show you to my room, and he gives her a whole tour of the house, and then they reach his room, and then she talks about how much music he has, and he explains his setup about how it's organized by decade and then organized by his favorites, and he said that he hates 80s music. So right then and there, honestly, he's like 100-something years old. I wouldn't be surprised if he was racist and homophobic. I really wouldn't. And like they hang out, and like Bella is making a joke that like Edward is not intimidating, and then he literally fucking tackles her, and she's like, ooh, you're dangerous. Yes, get out. Get out. Get out the house now. Get out the house. Get out of Forks. It's time to go home. Anyway, so Alice and Jasper are like, hey, you eating Bella? Can we come in? Literally, it's a joke, but they're like, I heard you're having Bella for lunch. Okay. And they come in and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go play baseball later. Do you want to join us? The weather will be good. Actually, the weather won't be good. The weather will be stormy, but it'll be perfect for us. So, yeah, we've just met the parents, and now we're going out to hang out with the family. We moved so fast. Like, it felt like just 2 chapters ago, they were still beefing, and now we're meeting parents? I don't know. So anyway, they spend the afternoon apart, which is like death to them, because they've just spent almost a full 24 hours together, because Edward didn't go home. He left for like 5 minutes after that whole thing. Yeah, that's when he tells her about everything, about how he watches her sleep and stuff. Yeah, ugh. When he comes to pick her up to go to the baseball time, he meets Charlie and makes a big deal out of it, even though it's not really that big of a deal to nor Charlie nor Bella. He's like, I'll have her home soon, which he didn't lie, but technically he did, and we'll get there. So yeah, they're off. They have to take Emmett's off-roading machine because they're going somewhere deep and far, babes. Deep and far. Deep in the forest and far away. So they're going to play baseball in the mountains because it's a storm, and vampires don't play like humans, and they make different noise, so they have to cover their noise with thunder. So anyway, they're playing, and like there's some nomad vampires that are like running through, and because Alice can see the future, she sees them coming. They thought that they were coming on, like, this is a Sunday, and they thought they were coming on Monday, but they came a day early because they heard them playing baseball. It's like, you wouldn't think, because like, come on now, vampires know the difference between thunder and baseball. So anyway, they come, and they're all menacing, and it's like reading their thoughts. And he's like, Bella, stay behind me because like these people are dangerous. Yeah, Bella, you should have left, because now you're putting your life at risk for a 100-something-year-old man who is a stalker and a creep. I digress. So, they now have this little moment with the, these nomad vampires. Like, these nomads are like, you guys are very weird. Like, why do you have a human here? And, like, what's really going on? Like, they were very confused by what the Cullens had going on. But they were willing to just go off and, like, you know, hang out with the Cullens for a moment. One of the nomads named James gets a whiff of Bella and finds out she's human, and he's like, ooh, snack time. And they're like, no, she's with us. And he's like, but it's snack time. And they're like, no. And then Edward, you know, reaches down in the ground because, like, you know, Bella's his property. That's literally the vibe that is given off. It's like, no, Bella's not yours. Bella is mine. Like, Bella is not yours either. Bella is her own free bitch who can do whatever the fuck she wants, and what she needs to do is get the fuck out of that fucking field and go back to Phoenix. But I digress. So anyway, now they're being chased Boots' house down by the tracker of the century, not the tracker of the centuries. We'll meet him, but the tracker of the century, this man, James. And he wants Bella because the moment that Edward was like, she's mine, he was like, actually, that's my snack. I want it. And he's tracker down. He's an extremely good tracker. So now they're like, great, what are we going to do? And they originally planned to, like, take Bella as far away as possible, but then they realized that's not going to happen. So then they're like, okay, well, we have to kill him. So how are we going to kill him? So originally they were going to just lure him to a spot and then just rip him to shreds. And send Bella far away and then come and get her, and then they go off together, right? Because we're literally teenagers running away together. What? Stephanie. Bella comes back home, and before she goes on her tirade, trying to convince her dad that they had broken up and she's going back to Phoenix, she tells Edward, don't listen to a single thing I say after this. And she's like, it's over, I hate you. And she starts packing up her bags. Edward then is upstairs and be like, you got do minutes and we gotta go. We gotta dip. Which, by the way, this plan of like going back and convincing Charlie and then going to Phoenix was Bella's idea, and Edward tried to act like she was stupid and that her plan was bad when her plan was actually the safest and best plan. That's another thing that Edward does that I don't like. He treats her like she is a child and he treats her like she's stupid. Bella is very smart. Bella is smart, you know. She may not make the best choices. She's not dumb. Like, she's not the type of stupid that Edward tried to make her out to be. He always treated her like she was stupid. But yeah, up until, you know, whatever. He treated her like she was stupid. And I didn't like that at all. So now they're doing her plan because her plan was the smartest plan. Correct. So anyway, now she's trying to convince Charlie that she's really going back to Phoenix. She basically says to Charlie the same thing that her mom said when she left. She's like, yeah, I like it. She's like, I like him. And she basically like, yeah, I liked him too much and I would stay here. I can't be mom forever. It's like, I hate it here. You know, basically like, I want to be stuck here. This place is horrible. I want to be my own person. And like, her truck can't make it to Phoenix. But anyway, she's off. Driving, crying, and she's like, he'll never forgive me. And everybody's like, he will, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, hun, he will. And it's like, maybe he will, but this is not your time or place. So hush and be quiet. So anyway, they're off doing their thing. The Cullens' house, so they can all split, and there's like multiple parties. You've got the boys, Edward, Emmett, and Carlisle, go off to track James and lead him far away from Bella. And then you've got Esme, who is on Charlie duty, making sure that he's safe. Rosalie wanted nothing to do with this because Rosalie was like, that bitch ain't shit to me, because who the fuck is that bitch? But yeah, so anyway, Rosalie doesn't know her from pretty much anything. We've got the tracking party. We've got Esme doing what she does the best she can, and we are so proud of her for that. And then we've got the mystical duo, as I like to call them, Alice and Jasper, who wrap Bella up and zoom-de-doomp her to Phoenix. Take her to Phoenix because she said she was going there, and because her thought process is like, oh, if I say that I'm going to Phoenix, then he won't actually think going to Phoenix. Babes, he's a tracker. He already figured it out. Yeah. So anyway, they're going to Phoenix. Zoom in. Zoop doopin. This is Jasper's moment. Jasper is the newest to the family, and he's been struggling, quite honestly, getting used to their vegetarian diet of like eating animals. So he's been struggling a lot, and like this is his moment because Bella is fresh, hot, and smells good, and he's doing well. You know, he does all right, but you know, at the end of the day, Jasper is still Jasper. They make it to Phoenix, and they're staying at a hotel, and like Bella is just, she's out of it, like zonked out. Like Babes has checked out emotionally and mentally for the most part. Honestly, I would too. Like a crazy vampire man who wants to eat me as a snack is coming after me, I'd be terrified too. So anyway, you know, she makes a call. She gets a call from Edward, and he's like, can I talk to Bella? And they're just like gushing. And then she leaves a message for her mom on the house phone to be like, don't worry, everything's fine. So that call so she thinks that her mom is now back in Phoenix. Boop-de-doo, it's James. He is a smart tracker and had his girly girl, Victoria, do some digging and found her address at the school. Ooh. So now he's like, ooh, you're gonna show up at the dance studio by your old house, or I'm gonna kill your mom. And so she's like, I gotta make the decision. But Alice can see the future, so she can't actually make that decision. She just has to go for it, right? So they already know that James is on his way to Phoenix. Alice could see it, and Edward could track down that um the trail had changed. So they were like, we're hopping on a plane to Phoenix. We'll be there in the morning. And Bella's like, now it's my time. So when they all get to the airport, she's like, can I go to the bathroom? And they're like, yeah, you're fine. And then she's like, and Alice was going to go. And she's like, actually, can I take Jasper? Because I don't want anyone with me in the bathroom, right? She's in her zone. She's in her moment because she's from Phoenix, remember? So she knows which bathroom she can escape from. So she goes to that one, goes in one exit, books it out the other one, just like running. Because, again, she just had to go. She couldn't make decisions. So she books it, like one of these hotel shuttles, and then goes to that hotel and then takes a taxi to her house. Or, like, takes a taxi to her house and then goes to the dance studio. So, there. Which is just like, you're doing all this just to protect Edward. And, like, your mom, yeah. But, like, at the end of the day, this is all just happened because you could not stay away from the creepy man who tried to kill you the first day you met. Anyway, so James is all like, oh, you came, da-da-da. And he's like, tries to make a bit of a show out of it. And then we find out that, like, actually, he has a little bit of a vendetta, and this is not just, like, him. Like, yeah, this is him trying to get, like, revenge over Edward trying to, like, take away, or, like, making it this the most fun game, and, like, but also, like, Alice was one of his escaped, like, victims, like, in the way that Bella smells to Edward, that's how Alice smelled to James, but then, in order to protect her, the vampire that changed her, changed Alice to protect her, and then James, in a fit of rage, killed that vampire. So, like, Alice had no idea what her history was, but we find out that, like, this is her backstory, which is, quite intense, I feel like. Like, yo. Also, we got Carlisle's backstory in this book during the house tour. I didn't mention it because it's not important to my commentary. It's actually more important to the New Moon commentary, to be honest. Anyway, but yeah, we're just like, yo, so you just have a vendetta against Alice, or a vendetta against this family because Alice is here, and you're taking it out on this poor defenseless girl? So there's double happening here. James is having a field day, just absolutely wrecking and destroying this dance studio and also Bella's entire body. I mean, snapping limbs. It's just causing all kinds of havoc and blood. And he's filming it, and he's just like kind of egging Edward on, like, yeah, don't you want to kill me? And then Bella's like, no, don't do it, don't kill him. And it's like, Bella, I hate to break it to you, but you should have stayed in Phoenix, or went back to Phoenix at some point. Something, babes. She is now just bloody bruised on the floor, and then in heat of the stuff. Alright, so anyway, he's making a scene out of it, and then all of a sudden, Edward comes, and his whole family, they all busting down, doing whatever. And, obviously, the big beefy boys, Emmett and Jasper, take care of James, and Edward is in charge of sucking the venom out of Bella. Carlisle's like, you can do it, and Edward is like, I don't know if I can, and Alice is like, I'm not strong enough for this, so I'm gonna leave. Anyway, Edward does it. We know he does, because there would not be another book if he did, and we know that from Life and Death, because in Life and Death, instead of the venom being sucked out and Bo goes to the hospital, Bo spends agony going back to Forks because he's a vampire now, and they stage his death. That's how that ends. But this one, Bella goes to the hospital, and instead of staging her death, they stage her falling out of a window at a hotel to explain all the things that happened to her, which honestly, because Bella's so clumsy, which is established earlier, it would make sense for her to fall out of a window onto concrete. Anyway, they staged it, and they're in the hospital in Phoenix, and her mom was like, you can stay with me, and she's like, I want to go back to Forks. And she's like, And she's like, is it because of that boy? You know, he really loves you. It's kind of creepy. Yeah, because he's a stalker. And anyway, so then they have this moment where she's like, basically like, I don't want you to go ever. Please don't leave me. And like when he even hints at it, and like her heart rate shoots up and everyone's like, yo, or everyone's like, yo, relax. Which it's like, this is your fault. This is your fault. Don't ever, yo, relax, Bella. This is your fault. And anyway, there's like this unspoken thing that he's like, yeah, I won't leave. But I will leave, but not now. Which we find out in Midnight Sun is really the case. But yeah, it's just like this whole energy of like, I'ma leave. But I'm not. Like, he tells her he's not gonna leave, but we know he is. So anyway, Bella she goes back to Forks. She's in a cast. She has no permanent injuries, which is shocking for how much she went through. So she's back in Forks on a cast. And they go to prom, which we know Bella can't dance, and that's like one of her biggest fears. But Edward somehow convinces her to go to prom. But we find out when they're there that she didn't think she was going to prom. She thinks that they were getting her all nice and gussied up to turn her into a vampire, which is really weird. But when we're there, Jacob comes, and we've had this like little tiny subplot throughout the whole thing of like the Quillette tribe being like, Bella, stay away from them, and like they've come up multiple times. So this is like the last like final like real push where Jacob's dad bribes him to come to the prom and be like, basically like, Bella, stop what you're doing, and then be like, we're always watching, which will make sense in New Moon. But yeah, and like then Bella's like, I thought we were getting all gussied up to go to my changing, and Edward was like, you want me to change? No. But then he was like, you want me to change you right now? And she said yes. And he's like, are you sure you want this? And she's like, yes. And she's like, desperate. And then he just kisses her neck. And then we reach the end. And we go to the next book. Just quickly, life and death. Staged death. Then the epilogue. He attends his own funeral. And then has sort of a meeting with the Quillette tribe about the treaty, and how by him being turned, the treaty hasn't been broken, and like it's basically him exhibiting extreme self-control, which is more tied to Breaking Dawn. Yeah, so that's it. That is me giving a recap and my commentary on Twilight. Holy moly, that was so long. If you think this is long, my New Moon and Eclipse commentary, yeah. Breaking Dawn, yeah, I have stuff to say, but Eclipse, New Moon, I have a lot to say. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in with me and spending this moment with me. I hope you enjoyed me giving basically my commentary, little recap of the Twilight books. I will leave a link in the description to make a donation directly to the Quillette tribe to make sure that they are able to move to higher land. Reminder that they have not made a cent from any of this franchise, and yet their name has been used. There are only 75 surviving members, so Stephenie Meyers really could apologize to all of them in a single afternoon, but has yet to even acknowledge their presence publicly. So yeah, that is all I have to say. This has been long and winded, but I hope you had fun with it. I tried to do my makeup based off of the cover, if you can tell. I might do that again, but I might also not. Who knows? If you like me, my socials will be in the description. Go ahead and give me a subscribe here. I'm going to try to be more active. And I will probably reopen my Patreon at some point. I'll probably be reopening it for May in case anyone else wants to listen to these. I will probably upload audio-only downloads there if you'd like that. So, thank you all for tuning in. Go ahead, give me a follow on all my socials, subscribe here, and let me know if you want to see New Moon, Breaking Dawn, Midnight Sun, you know, Short Second Life, Britannia, any of those things, you know, any of the next books. Let me know if you want that. I've been Nelly. Signing off.